All right. So this is the Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. It is 7 o'clock p.m. This is the Land Use Commissions meeting. Call this meeting to order. We'll start off with Planning and Zoning Commission update on P&Z decisions. So I get some vague stuff, and if anybody else here can think of anything that I'm missing. Quickly, the old bank building, that is on our next agenda for an application for a school. We had a 3-lot subdivision on River Road that was approved. They paid us a fee in lieu of open space. There was a 2-lot subdivision on Kelsey Hill Road. Again, instead of donating open space, they also paid us a fee in lieu of open space. We had a couple of houses on River Road. One that was somewhat controversial, one that was approved. And come to find out they were over the limit, so they came back in voluntarily for an approval for that. Those were both in conjunction with the RiverCog, the Gateway Commission. I think that's about it for planning and zoning. And we continue to work on the plan of conservation development with everyone. Anybody?
And there's, I think early October, there's going to be a public hearing.
Yes.
Kind of an initial public hearing, just to get everybody's opinion so far.
Okay. Tanner, get your hand up.
I do. Thanks, Tony. I know when the regulation got changed so that we could now accept fee in lieu for open space, there was going to be an open space fund opened. Yep. So I'm just curious, do we know yet if that account is open, and is there a way for us to get an update on the balance of that quarterly or something like that? Is it currently just being put aside, or did we get that fund labeled and set up?
So it is by general statute, it is a separate fund. I believe John Duskowski is on top of that, so we should hit him up next time he is on here. Because I did ask him about it, regarding something else we're going to talk about. So, but yes, I believe it is set up. I don't think the River Road property is moved forward yet, but I think the people on Kelsey have. So, if that,
okay,
it's vague, but I think that's an answer.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I just wasn't make sure it wasn't being lost in space in general funds.
It's replacing a sidewalk somewhere. Oh.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Is Alan still in the room there?
He's not. He ran out for another meeting, but he is coming back into this. He's got something.
Okay, no worries. Well, maybe we could chat about it when he gets back, because I recall it was maybe 3 meetings ago. I was listening into one of yours. You guys had a sort of an interesting conversation about how now that regulation is adopted, how will it sort of be used? Whether it was sort of a penalty, or if it was a reward, or if it was solely our decision. So I thought that was sort of interesting. The first time you guys were working through it, hearing you guys sort of discuss like the actual mechanics about how we'll apply it. I'm just curious how it went in your experience, and if Alan wanted to give his thoughts later about if he thinks it's working the way it was intended.
Okay, we did. So just the reg version of it is that we do have discretion as to whether or not we accept fee in lieu of open space. But how it went on the last 2, I will leave that up to Alan. But I mean, I think it went well. I think the River Road, my opinion is the River Road project was a good indication of that. They had a piece of property that they weren't willing to do anything with, and they only wanted an easement, and it wasn't. I mean, it would have protected something that is already protected. So I don't think it worked. I think it worked monetarily for that.
I agree with you there. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Anybody else planning and zoning stuff? No, I'm gonna move along. Item number 3, Conservation and Wetlands Commission update on your guys' decision. Anybody want to field this one?
Sure, I can do that.
Jump in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I did miss the last meeting, so John's maybe our expert here. But I'll just generally say, I don't think we've processed any of the applications of any significant activity lately. Nothing particularly controversial, a few small violations here and there, but nothing particularly controversial. We're still continuing to work on our regulations revision. Long, slow process.
We
Slower
made
than.
good progress last month.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, maybe my absence helped. I wasn't there to talk for 45 minutes. But still continuing our some progress on revising the inland wetlands regs, mainly to update our state standards to the model regs, but hopefully adding in a few small details that will enhance our ability to do some things. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, that just kind of last month. That's kind of like we spent a nice chunk of time kind of chipping away at like the fee schedule and some of the other regs that we were working on. So yeah, still more work to do, but we made a dent, which is good.
I gotta jump in a question for this. So you guys are working on your fee schedule, which is awesome. Have you changed it and approved it?
It's not approved yet. It's still a work in progress.
Okay, because part of what we're doing is an online permitting system, which would benefit you guys also. Because
For sure.
so I don't know if that's something you want to throw an extra $1.50 in on the fee or $5.
We can talk about it at the next meeting. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's a good idea, Tony. If you wouldn't mind, just send me a note on what you think the cost would work out to per. Yeah, I'm assuming you maybe have thought about that, breaking down the cost per application. You could let us know. We could try to bake that in. I'll say too, just in general, transparency. We're not looking to necessarily double fees or increase fees.
Yeah.
Exorbitantly. We're actually we've looked at the 5 or 6 surrounding towns, and our intention is to get right around the average of those. And so we're essentially just kind of trying to come into the modern age and reflect the cost of doing business. I think, I mean, even just with putting advertisements into the newspaper, we're probably losing money on that. And we retain, an attorney now that is extremely necessary given the complexity of some of the things we have. So there's additional expenses, and so the cost of doing business has gone up somewhat. And so we're sort of just trying to modernize the fee to reflect the cost of doing business. Yeah, but certainly that's a great idea, and would be happy to consider that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think honestly, if I remember correctly, the fee, if planning and zoning and the building department alone took the burden, I think it literally raises our fee by $10. So it's nothing ludicrous. So just in the background, I'll get real numbers for you guys. Cool. Anybody questions for wetlands?
John, any applications stand out to you as of late?
not really. I mean, most of them were pretty basic. We had the one with the house that they're gonna move, right? That was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, we don't have any new construction, mostly small additions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, nothing that I can think of. Kind of basic, smaller project.
Okay. All right. If nobody has questions for you guys, moving on to the land trust. Excuse me. Item 4, Economic Development Commission. Anybody from EDC? Crickets. Okay. Item number 5, land trust. Update on land trust decisions.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going?
I'm Lori. I don't know everyone. Lori Giannotti, the president of the Land Trust right now.
I'm Daniel Smith. I'm on the P&Z, and I've just done the remotes. But
Nice to meet you.
showing up now that we can show up in person.
Nice to meet you.
It's pretty cool.
Can you guys hear okay? Just I know it's Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Not particularly, no.
Yeah, if you could speak up just a hair, that'd be great, Lori. Thanks.
Okay, Tanner.
Beautiful.
That's better. So the land trust, we just had our annual meeting, trying really hard to get people to come to our
educational events and our annual meetings, but it's a little difficult. If you have any suggestions on how we can reach more people, that would be awesome. I did notice the town has a calendar now on when we get the emails from the town that there's an events calendar, so I can try to start capitalizing on that and figure it out. Do that, we have been working with the property owner on Meadowwoods Road, who is planning to donate a nice piece of property for us that's right across from our Lions Preserve. And with that will do a lot of things for us. It will connect those properties and will also provide us a little bit of parking there. That we only have like one space for the Lions property. And the Lions property, if you've been on it, you can connect over to Essex. It's a nice long corridor. And then we also have another property behind Lions, so we're starting to have this big long connection down to Essex Street, which is going to need a few more parking spaces. So hopefully, we just heard back from the landowner again, and they're still moving forward on that. Just to get along.
This was the one that was, the person passed away, right? And it was
Yeah,
the family.
it's
Yeah.
in probate, and it's a bunch of people, including the university, that are inheriting stuff. So that we just have to wait for it.
Nice.
We had some good educational projects that happened.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that too. We did on Gootlywag. I think I ran into you one day when I was with my kid.
Yeah.
On Gootlywag, we have some big stands of sugar maples. So myself and another board member, we tapped a bunch of them, which was pretty cool. And then we ended up partnering up with Bushy Hill. They have a maple syrup evaporator, so we like fired that up and we basically made maple syrup, and then we still have some kicking around, I think, but we were using it as kind of like a fundraiser, you know, like as a kind of almost like the old PBS style, like, oh, if you donate this much to the land trust, you'll get a tote bag and a maple syrup. So we like labeled them and everything. Yeah, it was great. I've done some like maple tapping in the past, but like on a small scale, just with a bucket and on my stove. But it was really neat. Like, I loved it because, you know, and that's part of what I think the land trust does too, is just like community outreach. Like, I brought my kids and like I was able to show them like the whole process. I went with Patrick, the other board member, and we tapped all the trees. My kids were there helping out, and then we'd go periodically. Like when I ran into you, we'd do like collect the staff, and then we'd haul it over to Bushy Hill, and then we had several three or four different occasions, I think, when we fired up the evaporator.
Yes.
And then just did that. So it was cool. My kids got to see the whole process from like tree to bottle, which was kind of neat.
And Bushy Hill wants us to come back and do it again because they want to incorporate it into some of their programs now. Because it worked so well.
Cool.
And believe me, that it was thrown together like insanely quick.
How many gallons of sap did you put?
Oh gosh, Patrick would know. It was like,
Something.
well, each time we only fired it up when we had at least 40 gallons. So, and yeah, like a gallon of sap, syrup. So we did that like 4 times. So, yeah.
But he said he had 40 bottles.
Wow.
That's-
Yeah, I'm sure we can figure out the math and then reverse it and figure out how many gallons. But I don't know off the top of my head. But it was a lot. It was a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
the Deep River Farms first opened up years ago when the girls had it. I was walking down the third road next to my house. And I found an oak tree with tapped it.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
What's wrong with this picture?
There are other trees you can tap, but oak is not one.
Black birch.
Yeah, birch.
I'd love to try that.
What else? I guess like
Well,
we
we've been at the farmer's market. We're
Yep.
trying to get to the farmer's market every couple of weeks, just because it's surprisingly, a lot of people stop by and talk to us because we have the map. People like maps.
Yeah.
And they come over and look at the map, and, oh, what's this? And so that's been really kind of nice. And we got a lifetime member from just a conversation at the farmer's market. So that was really great.
I know we'll talk a little bit later too, but we actively try to reach out to the public too, like landowners who, to gauge their interest, to see if they're interested in preserving, open space on their land. And that there's different means of doing that. One is like, obviously we can purchase it through grants. It could be a donation to us, and there's also conservation easements. And there's different things, and there's different incentives for. Like with easements, there's different tax incentives as well as like donations. There's tax incentives. But that's pretty much what we've been doing.
We have been a little more, well, I don't know when I should talk about our collaboration a little bit more, but,
I'm curious about that myself. I don't know if that's now or after.
well,
wait.
what about the property?
That's what I mean.
Maybe talk about
I do, but before I want to ask a question before I forget something. So I gotta write these things down. So I don't know if this is a conservation commission question, but so the beech tree disease that's clearly kicking butt over here.
Ugh.
Who deals with that? I mean, on a land trust property, do you deal with it, or do you just go to the conservation commission and be like, look, you guys deal with it?
No,
'Cause,
we
like-
would never ask you guys to do anything on our property.
No, but conservation commission runs Canfield Woods, I always call it.
Oh, Canfield.
Yeah, so and the trees there are just like,
We
yeah,
wouldn't. We would only go with a request, because we're not technically responsible for Canfield Woods, so.
right, but on
We've
your,
been in
on your
general,
property,
We had a bunch of beaches.
Okay, we would, if there was something like, what we need to do is look at all, we have property stewards for some of our properties.
Yeah.
And that person would have to tell us, or we hear from a landowner, this tree is threatening my whatever, like we just took one down at Union Street.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the landowner was gonna lose a shed or something, so
Gotcha.
we had, Howard come down, take it. And, so that's how we would handle it. If it's gonna fall on our property, we're not gonna care about it. However, if it's near a trail.
Yep.
Then we have to be a little more, we have one down at Smite, that's pretty dead.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about taking it down, because it's right, I mean, that would be the most unlucky day of my life.
Right.
Is there any way of combating?
there,
I haven't heard of it.
there, I
So
was,
there,
I was reading about it and I was gonna, that's why I'm picking on Tanner.
I've been giving Save a Tree.
Sure.
Nothing's happened.
Go ahead, Tanner.
yeah, I just say, I mean, it sounds like your question, Tony, is thinking more on a broad scale in terms of sort of a forest management thing. So I guess if you had a property or someone, the land trust or even the town potentially for conservation land, I mean, you'd be thinking about it from a forest management perspective because it's just so widespread. And yeah, there's no known combatant to it at this time. It's still yet to be seen how many years of impacts will take to actually kill individual trees. I mean, I think you're starting to see this year a portion of trees dying. That's for sure. They're leafing out, and I've seen some that have now leafed out for a third consecutive year. They're leafing out in a really wilted manner. And sometimes they're reflushing with leaves later on in the summer, but it's thought that repeated impacts like that in the early season is going to kill a tree eventually. So yeah, it's a real valid concern. I mean, you're losing a component of the forest ecosystem, and while beech is not highly prized by foresters, necessarily, it's almost considered a weed a bit. But yeah, it's pretty alarming to lose any sort of species from the forest like that. There's not a whole lot that can be done at this time. If someone was interested, they could get a forester. They could potentially do some sort of proactive harvesting to try to favor other species, or if they were really interested in regenerating beech, I suppose they could try that too. But yeah, so to answer your question, there's really nothing immediately that could be done other than some sort of silvicultural technique.
Gotcha. So I remember hearing that it was like a something poly something 30. And I wasn't sure if you guys were like actively trying it or if that's just, like internet
Yeah,
chatter
so
thing.
so poly I think it's phosphite 30. I think it's a potassium treatment.
Yep.
There's a couple of these treatments that they show promise, but you have to treat the tree twice a year. And you have to do that for like several years. You'd have to do it probably indefinitely. So it's not something that you could do on a landscape scale. Just to add to what Tanner said in regards to reaching out to foresters, if you have a property that's got a lot of beech and it's underlain by invasive species like barberry, it's worth considering treating that before the beech dies off. Because when you have a monoculture of beech that dies and you've got invasive species under it, you're going to release those. They're going to be invigorated by the new input of light, and they could block regeneration of other desirable species. And you go from having a nice forest, maybe it's full of beech that you didn't like in the first place, but whatever, you're going to end up with something that's not a forest in the future. So that's something that the land trust is cognizant of, and other landowners should be aware of.
Is this disease
Yeah.
attacking copper beeches as well? Because I see some that don't look real healthy.
Yeah, it's from Japan, so it impacts both our native beaches and ornamental beach.
So maybe
It's possible that
we should be looking at the one at the library about getting that treated, because if we lose that tree, it's gonna be a real loss of a landmark. I see one massive one down in Iverton that's probably as big as that one, that is all dead at the top, literally dead wood. But this one here will take the library out if it breaks, for starters, but also it'd be a shame to lose that as a landmark.
Right. That's.
yeah, I personally am going to treat. I'm personally going to treat a couple of high value trees on my property.
Yeah.
It's worth trying. If it's a big tree, it might work.
What, I think it's like what, 8 feet around? I mean, I think it's huge.
Perhaps who should address the selectmen regarding at least that tree?
Do we have a tree warden? No. Yeah,
We used to have Joe
Yeah, we
Majeski. I don't know who does.
I think isn't Alan the tree warden?
Save a tree, it's 800,000 treatment. I've been getting it, this is like the third year. Every time it's like, when you want, you see results next year, the fact the tree's still alive.
Right. But that's, yeah, that's a,
On the
I mean,
web,
that's a specimen, so.
I think Alan's listed as the tree warden on the website.
Okay, we'll have to.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the beech leaf disease is that it's a nematode as opposed to a fungus or a flying insect. And I didn't realize Mike was on the call. He's the beech expert. I should have let him talk first. So thanks, Mike.
All right, well, we'll have to keep that in mind.
As it is, those pear trees that were cut down on Main Street here, those were notable trees.
Yeah.
And somehow, then all of a sudden they were gone.
Well, it's why I think Marion brought up reestablishing church and street trees.
Yeah, pears unfortunately have this crotch disease. And so apparently they were never meant to be long-lived trees.
If that was the justification for taking those down, because it sure didn't look bad.
All right, well, now that we've taken a bunch of time with the beech tree thing, if you want to go back at the open space.
Hi, Mike, I didn't know you were on, so Mike Zarfos is on our board, Mike Wetlands.
Hello.
So, are we gonna, do you want to leave? Do you want me
Is
to?
that are we the last thing on the agenda?
No. Design advisory.
We did have some business, last month or the month before. We reviewed a 2,000 square foot single family residence proposed, right adjacent to the library, so across the river from the library. The idea is to tear down the existing house, and actually move it uphill a little bit, a couple feet, more towards the south end of the property, build new 2,000 square foot residence. So kind of swapping out the mass with a new house. Everything looked in order. Take any exception to it, except for the fact that the owner asked the architect, I guess it was kind of like a neoclassical looking house, and he wanted more room in the attic. So he asked the architect, had a low pitched roof with kind of a semicircle window in the peak of it. He asked him to steepen the roof, which he did, and then it made the window look kind of historic, a little odd. So we asked him to swap out that semicircle window with a regular rectangular window that would fill that triangled space or adequately. But other than that, it's in order, and it's actually gonna, as you're approaching town, because the house is moved to the, just off the setback from the property on the south side, you're gonna get a better view of the library and the river. The house won't be blocked from that view.
Nice.
The review recommendation should be posted.
Cool. All
we're trying to do our reviews a little more formally now with, the components of our review. So we break it down into the design content, site design, and building design. Go through all the different aspects of those three. And and signage and lighting. So,
Right.
That's all.
Alrighty. Old business, anybody, anything we didn't think of? All right, new business, anybody, you wanna go under new business?
Sure.
Okay,
Or is it gonna be an official part of the meeting or we?
I was gonna ask you, cause I'm gonna stop the recording and you want me to, okay, so we'll wait.
Well, except we might.
No, yeah, I'm gonna just stop the recording.
Okay.
So,
I said counter here to say.
yeah. All right, so no new business, and I guess we're gonna call this meeting adjourned at 7:26. Let me stop my recording.